The Baseball Together Network presents the Philly Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Jason and Tory. And now, Philly Baseball Together.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Philly Baseball Together podcast for our April edition of the show. And if you're joining us on YouTube, this is the first time you're seeing our faces because we will be seen on YouTube this year, not just listened to. My name is Jason. I'm joined, as always, with my brother in Phillies baseball arms, Tory. How are you today, Tory?
You know, I'm doing pretty well. I'm holed up. I've been studying for this licensing test that I have to take on May 1st. So I'm holed up all the way down here in Waynesboro to try to get away from like distractions and everything, and focus on studying. But I figured, I could take a break to talk about Phillies baseball for a little bit.
We appreciate that. We do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, where do you want to get started? Because we've had a lot to unpack so far this month.
It's true, and I want to start out, I guess, really by saying it's funny to me that the Phillies are 8-11 right now, and they've had some clunkers. Let me tell you, like the first three games. Well, actually, no, the first two games against the Rangers were absolutely blowouts, terrible. And then didn't we? I think we just lost recently also to the what was it? Was the Reds like 15 to something?
Yeah, we had a blowout loss to the Reds.
Yeah, and I mean, but if you take away those, um, I really don't think that I'm playing that bad. I really don't. Um, and when I look at like all of the, I'm just going to grab my iPad here because I want to look up some some of the stats. But when I look up some of the players and look up some of their like batting averages, you look at like Brandon Marsh. Marsh is batting 380. Stott, I think, is batting 378 right now.
Stott broke a record for the Phils. Let's keep that in mind.
That's right. 17 straight games with a hit. That was only stopped on the what is it, against the White Sox the other day when we were one hit. I was having flashbacks to the World Series that day. That day, I was like, "Come on, don't let this become a thing," But yeah, I mean, like, if I look at them, I think Schwarber, of course, has started out slow, but here's the thing: Schwarber always starts out slow. Um, it's the Schwarber that we get in June that we really want, of course, the one who will mash like 15 homers in a month or something. I think he's gotten like the player of the month in June for the past 2 years. Um, let's see, Bohm is batting 324, Stott 365, Turner 321. Edmundo Sosa 344, Marsh 368, and this is the one that I'm really happy to see so far. But Castellanos batting close to 300 again. He's batting 292 right now. I think he's leading the league in doubles also at the moment, and so that's very, very encouraging. Pitching wise,
it's not good.
No, it is not. I'll let you take over for you to talk about pitching for a second.
No, you don't want to let me take over for that. I'm most disappointed in Nola because one, we know what we know what he can be capable of. Yes. And two, it's a contract year. He's going to be a hitting free agency. Most guys typically have career years on their free agency year, and I'll put it this way. I feel like we dodged a bullet by not signing him before the season began.
And let's be real. He's still only 4 starts in, and that could be on his mind also. Like, thinking that when you bet on yourself like that, it could either be really great, like it did with Aaron Judge last year. Judge bet on himself, and obviously then ended up being, he hit 62 home runs, or it could be like Nola right now, where he has an ERA of 5.91. But the thing is, again, like we are only 4 starts into the season. We don't know exactly how the rest of the year is going to go. I do. I mean, when I look at like Taiwan Walker looks pretty good. Strom has looked great. Wheeler has been a little iffy also, and I think that's what worries me the most is that Noah and Wheeler need to be shut down there. And now Noah is already, and I actually don't think I knew this. Noah is already 30, and Wheeler is 33. So that's something that we really need to take a look at, though. Also, is that do we need to start maybe thinking about picking up a pitcher, Shohei, during the trade deadline? That won't happen, I know, but I
That will
wanted to put
not
that out
happen. I
there.
don't
It will
see
not.
that
Yeah,
happen.
never in a million years. But I
Although
did
the,
want to put it
although
out
the
in the
Angels
universe,
did
though.
get Logan O'Hoppe off of us, and they're very happy with him. So
Yeah, and but I would say like if Marsh if he can like consistently bat maybe like in the 290s and hit like 15 home runs a year or something like that, I think that is win-win. And right now it is looking win-win. I was worried because Ohop looked like he was going to be a stud, and he looks like he's going to be a stud now. I picked him up for the fantasy league. He's been my catcher now for the last like 2 weeks. No comment on how bad my team is because it's really bad this year.
but
Um,
so here's the thing. I saw his last game in the Phillies organization.
I remember you said that. Yep.
Like on the way home from that game he was traded.
Didn't you say like you got like a baseball that was signed by him or something also? Or maybe I'm mistaken.
You're
No.
mistaken on that one, but that's okay.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
But I mean, other than that, though, I mean, the bullpen has been coming along this past week. Alvarado has been almost unhittable. I mean, he has 18 strikeouts in 8 innings. Let's see here. Brogdon has looked solid. He's got a 3.24 ERA. Soto worries me a little bit. And I remember when we got him, I think Tigers fans were like, yeah, yeah, well,
I I have some friends who are Tigers fans. They're actually gentlemen who live in Michigan. I know
Mhm.
them through various groups of other interests. Um, and they asked me about Veerling and Maton, and I asked them
I
about
miss him.
Soto. And I was up front. I said, these are two guys who have, I think, if they get regular playing time, they're going to be really good. It's just that there's a
Hmm.
logjam in the Phils right now, and there's no place for them. And then
Hmm.
what I got back on Soto is Soto can be really good. Soto can be really bad. He's streaky. You're not going to know what Soto you get from game to game.
Yeah.
So I kind of came into it with an understanding he's not going to be fantastic all the time. Now I got to get back to one person you talked about is Brogdon. I like Brogdon. I like watching him pitch.
I
I
like him
I
too.
actually feel confident when he comes in. I think
Yeah,
he's a hard worker and he's definitely someone who's flourishing on this team.
he is. And how long actually has he been on the team now? So he's been on the team for yeah, okay, so he's been on the team his whole career, and he's been a pretty solid contributor. I mean, every year his ERA's been in the threes. Um, so I mean, like you pretty much by now you know what you're getting with him, and that's just like a solid reliever. And what is he? So he's 28 now. Um, so there's still, but definitely plenty of time. Whatever I mean, whatever happened to Alvarado last year seems to have carried over into this year, which looks good. The one that, of course, worries me a little bit so far is Sir Anthony. Sir Anthony, his ERA right now it's at 10.80. It's only been 6 and 2/3 of an inning, but he's given up 8 runs. So that's
I'm
not
always
amazing for
cautious with
somebody.
Sir Anthony because
Really?
he is injury prone, and
Yeah.
that worries me. Um,
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say also that he can be injury prone, but when he's on, he's really on.
Yes.
Um, and let's see, Kimbrel has been, he's been pretty up and down too, but he's somebody that's older also. He's 35. So, and when I look at the bullpen, most of them are they're younger guys. So we have Alvarado is 28, Brogdon's 28, Soto is 28. Bilotti's 31, Kimbrel's 35, Dominguez is 28. So it's all pretty much like younger guys, and we have some fireballers up there too.
I mean,
Soto. Good.
I was gonna say we got Kimbrel more on the potential of him returning to form
Right.
than what he currently is, and I think also
Right.
having him in the bullpen with a lot of those younger guys provides a veteran quality that maybe they didn't have before.
That's true, and you can never discount, veteran leadership on a team. Also, like when Utley went over to the Dodgers, he wasn't really doing too much hitting wise. He wasn't really doing. I mean, but the organization absolutely loved him because of what he brought in terms of just being a leader on and off the field.
Yeah, he works for their
Um,
front office now.
I think does he still? Because it seems like now like he's been showing up more, and we talked about this a lot last year. That like that I thought we had kind of lost Utley to the Dodgers. He was working for their front office. He wasn't really showing up too much for like promo, like big promo moments when like we did like the Wall of Fame or something. Recently, it seems like he has been. Like he threw out the first pitch with Utley in the. I mean, yeah, Utley with Utley. When he threw out the first pitch with Rollins in the World Series.
Yeah, him and
He
Mac
was.
had a catch.
That's right. Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah. Um, and because I think he was recently on their podcast, and I think they had a catch like after that or something too. But but I also think I heard then that he was at one of their, what the heck is it called, like where you can go for like a week and play with like the old retired players. I can't think of what it's called,
Yeah, I know it's like a
but
fantasy week. It's like a
yeah,
fantasy
that's it.
camp
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. But I think he did that recently also with the Phillies. So it seems like maybe like I don't know if maybe like the Phillies said like, hey, we'd really like to have you back in some capacity with the agency, and he was like, all right, yeah, or if maybe he's starting to shy away from the Dodgers a little bit, I don't know. But it does seem like it's like he's been around more often than he used to, though. So that's
And
good.
I will agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what player I guess has surprised you so far this year? Surprised you?
Oh, it's Stott. Hands down, it's Stott. I mean, that kid is a beast this year.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
speaking of Chase Utley, I don't know if you caught it yesterday during the game. Um, but Tom McCarthy and Ruben were talking about Stott's similarities to Utley.
Mm-mm.
How
I don't
there's a
think he
Chase Utley
has. I don't.
quality
I
to
don't.
him.
I don't think he has his power. Um, I think that I love his approach at the plate. I think he sees a ton of pitches, and even last year in the playoffs when we were watching him, he looked like he had ice in his veins. I think he was one. He got the first hit in Game 3 of the NLDS against the Braves. He doubled off Strider, and then the whole thing was over after that. Like Strider just unraveled. He looked unhittable until that moment, and then he just completely lost it all. Um,
I can
but no,
hear Braves fans' tears right now as we're talking about it.
oh, it's beautiful. But I mean, but Stott was a first round pick also. He was drafted 14th overall in 2019, which is another thing I kind of wanted to bring up. For years, I lamented over the fact that the Phillies were terrible at drafting. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I
Yes.
mean, anybody that they would pick in the first round was a guaranteed flame out. Um, and I mean, they've definitely had their misses over the past couple of years, like Mickey Moniak and some others. But when I look at like their track record recently, I mean, three-fourths of their infield should be homegrown. If Hoskins wasn't injured, we should have Bohm, Stott, and Hoskins, obviously. And then Sir Anthony is homegrown also. So I mean, like we've taken a Nola, of course. We've taken a ton of steps in the right direction when it comes to farm system, I think. So that's
Yeah.
good. But going back to what you were saying about Stott, is that he does look great so far. Um, what is it? On base percentage. Yeah, I guess he could maybe walk. He's only had one walk. So I mean, like that, because his batting average is 365. His on base percentage is 372. So that's something that he could definitely work on. Um, but other than that, though, I mean, like, for me, like, and I know you said Stott as one of your big surprise. Maybe not my big surprise, but I would say the person that I'm mostly like I've been happy with so far this year is Castellanos. Um, like I said, I mean he's batting close to 300. He's been getting consistent hits with 9 doubles, also 11 RBIs. Let's see here, OPS about at around 800. So I mean, like that's pretty much exactly where we want him to be. That's when we signed him for that $100 million contract to be like that
Right.
person. And also, I had heard, and I don't know if you did also, but last year, obviously around this time of year, you remember the story with Bohm, where like he made the 3 errors on the play, and the camera caught him saying, and I won't say it fully, like I hate this place, is what he said. And apparently, like Castellanos was the one who came up to him, I guess, after the game and was like, "Listen, like you can't shy away from this. You have to own it." Um, and so like that really that gave me a ton of respect for Castellanos also.
Yeah, I'm glad
Like
he's really
knowing
turning it
that
around.
yes.
He's my wife's least favorite player on the team.
Why?
Because she thinks, I mean, after she never really saw him outside of last season, so
Mm.
her opinion of him is based on his performance last season at the plate. So she's still of the mindset that he's almost a guaranteed out.
Yeah.
And she has a colorful, not family friendly nickname for him when
Hmm.
he comes up to bat. Um, but
You have
yeah,
to
I'm
you
really
have to
happy
text
with.
it to me afterwards.
Yeah, I will have to. Um, but I'm really happy with how he's performing this year
Yeah.
as well. He seems to be on a bit of a rebound, which I mean they were expecting all year anyway, all off season that he was going to rebound this year and have a good year.
Well,
Um,
if you remember last year, he started out very strong also. He was very consistent. And then I think he hurt his wrist or something? He might have hurt his wrist, and then like he was
yeah,
ever
he had an
quite got
injury
into a
and just
groove
couldn't
after
bounce
that.
back.
Right. And I'm hoping that maybe that was the case. Um, because man, like this team right now, they're so likable. And I desperately want them to get back to the playoffs and make some more noise because they're a good team and they deserve to be in the spotlight. Um, one of the players that we haven't really talked about so far. What do you think about Trey Turner?
I'm torn because he was white hot in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
And then he showed up for us colder than ice. Now, yesterday he had an amazing day. Let's not discredit that. We're recording this on April 20th. Last night being April 19th, he had a fantastic game yesterday.
Yeah. First home run. And I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, like, and I mean, but it's also, I guess, kind of unfair for us to like expect that he's going to be the World Baseball Classic, Trey Turner, like every night, where he's going to
Right.
be Captain America. Like, like people are like, oh, we had the bases loaded. Who's going to come up? And like all of a sudden, all the lights go out in the stadium, and a giant spotlight like hits like the top of the Liberty Bell, and he comes like flying down like he's like Batman, or something like that, and everybody's like, oh, I mean, like we can't expect that to happen like all the time, but I was hoping to have more power early on though in the season, so it's good that he got the first one out of the way. Right now, Edmundo Sosa has more home runs than he does.
I like Sosa. Sosa's such a great guy off the bench. I think he was like one of our best pickups last year at the deadline.
Yes, he was definitely. Um, yeah, he was, and he's somebody. I think he just, and I don't know if maybe like it was like a change of scenery or something like that. Where did he come from? I think he came from the Cardinals. Um,
He did. He did. And he
mm,
had that great slide at home against the Cardinals in the playoffs. So,
Oh yeah, that's right. It's kind of like take that, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, when he was on the Cardinals, he wasn't really doing too much. But since he's come over to us, I mean, last year, and obviously it was a small sample size, but he had 315 for us last year. And then this year he's batting 344. And obviously a small sample size. He's only had 32 at bats. Um, but I like the energy that he brings. I like kind of like he has a little bit of a swagger to him too, which I like. Um, because I always think it's fun when baseball players can be people, maybe not so much like the NBA, where it's all ego, 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 ego. Um, but I kind of like having players like him or like Jazz Chisholm, um, or like a Harper, or so, anybody like that. Um, but I'm rambling, so I'm sorry.
that's okay. That's a good segue to Mr. Gold Thumb himself, Bryce Harper.
I love
Um,
that.
um, what are your thoughts on Bryce trying out first base? I feel like this was inevitable. I feel like this was going to happen further down the road, but here we are. There's a need, and he has the want.
I think you have to wonder what it means long term for Hoskins also, because not that we like, I didn't think that we were going to re-sign him at the end of this year anyway, um, but I mean that still remains to be seen. But at the same time, though, I mean, like I would say, I mean, I guess if Harper can come in and play that position adequately, then great, But when I think the corner infielders are really important on a baseball team, especially now. In fact, I was watching the post game live for yesterday's game, and they were just talking about how when you play the Cardinals, I mean, they have Goldschmidt and Arenado on the corners. And I mean, they're vacuums pretty much. Not much
Yeah.
is going to get by them. Um, and so like we also kind of saw that in the in how important defense is for a first baseman in the World Series too. Remember, I can't remember if it was Game 5. Was it? And I can't remember if it was Schwarber
Well,
or somebody hit like that. Go ahead. Sorry.
let's be honest. Since we're talking about defense at first base and the playoffs, Rhys had some blunders.
Yes, he did. Yes.
And me and you have been on the opposite end of the Rhys Hoskins argument for a few seasons now, where I've always been of the thought, if we can trade him and get something valuable, let's do it. And you've always been like, well, Rhys is the heart of the team. He's someone we need to keep.
Mm-hmm.
And I acknowledge that he's very much a big part of the heart and soul of this team. But if Bryce takes to first base and he becomes a very good fielder, do we need Rhys Hoskins at that point?
Well, I feel like we would still have to make up. We have to see like this year how we do, because I feel like we would still need that power, his power bat in the middle of the lineup. If you remember back in the glory years of 2007 through 2011, the Phillies were there. They were always in the mix before that, but they never really hit their stride until they added the right-handed power bat of Jason Worth into the lineup. I kind of see Hoskins to be like a little bit like that also, where like it balances out the lineup, so it's not, you can't bring in like the lefty, lefty, lefty just to start like attacking them and everything. And Real Muto also obviously is a right-hander too, but I mean, he's how old is Real Muto? Actually, I was going to say he's probably in his
31.
I think he's 30. Yeah, so he's, I mean, so you can't expect that he's going to have like a ton of power for years to come either. Now when it comes to Hoskins, I don't know. I'm on the fence. I really am. Like I would love to keep him because I think his power is going to be hard to replace. Especially like remember what was it? I think it was
Unless they get
game
Shohei.
what's yeah. Unless we get Shohei, not happening. It's not happening. No.
I think we have a better shot
Um
at getting Trout at this point. So
yeah. You know, so if the Phillies even had like a whiff of possibly like getting Shohei in like free agency, Steve Cohen would just like back up like the Brinks armored truck, like to Shohei's house. He'd open it up and like there'd be like all these gold bars, and and Steve Cohen would be throwing at them and just at, at Shohei and everything like that. And that would be only be if the Phillies you had thought about possibly trying to sign Shohei, because the Mets right now with how they spend money is scary. I
Yeah,
admit
but they're
it.
still the Mets at the end of the day. So money can't undo that bad luck.
It's true. I mean, especially and look at the Rays also. The Rays, what is their I think would they have 75 million in player salaries, and they started out, was it 14 or 13? I think 13 or no. Um, so
So I
it's
honestly believe they are the real deal. I think they are the true threat of the AL East.
I'd like to see that. I think the organization deserves a World Series title, especially because when you look at the Marlins have two World Series titles, but they kind of lucked into both of them. They because they obviously got the 97 one. I mean, both were very good teams, but then they got the 97 one, then they traded everybody away, and then pretty much like all the assets they got from that brought them the 2003 World Series also, and then they got rid of all of them also.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I would love to see a team that could be, if it can't be the Phillies at least, but a team that is as competitive as the Rays are, and as good as the Rays are with fielding team, would get a championship. I'd really like to see that. Um, because also I really just don't want to see the Astros anywhere near the World Series again.
Agreed. So
Yeah.
before we wrap this up here, because we are hitting that mark for our show. Um,
Wow.
what are your predictions for this season?
Last year I think I said that they were going to go. I think I went. I think that they're either going to go 92 and 70 or 94 and 68, and obviously like that wasn't super duper correct. I think they are still going to make the playoffs this year. I think they're going to go. I'm going to go with the 92 and 70. Actually, I think they're going to be good. I think Harper is going to come back earlier than expected and make a huge difference. I don't care. I think ESPN said he was going to come back and bat like 240 or something like that. Like that's not happening. ESPN. If it was ESPN that said that, I really don't know. I can't remember. But I do think that Harper's going to come back, and just his presence is going to lift the team a little bit higher. I also expect the Phillies to go out and get some kind of a pitcher at the trade deadline, because I think that's what they need also right now too.
Yeah.
Because when you look at our two top line starters, I hate to say it, they're getting older. Like I said, Noah is 30, Wheeler is 33. Wheeler, I think Wheeler still looks good, but you can't expect him to be good for like another, like, he's not like Verlander or something like that. In other words,
Right.
but okay, your predictions though, go.
Realistically, I think they're going to be the first wild card spot. Um, and we'll be drinking Braves fans' tears again this offseason.
Wow, strong words.
And I won't be getting kicked out of the Phillies Reddit because of a Braves fan this year.
Hmm. Hey, but you got reinstated though, right?
I did, after pleading my innocence and years of good behavior. It was one Braves fan set me off. Um, oh,
Yeah.
third place. They're the third place team. They don't belong here. Guess what? They
Like
beat you
I
when it mattered. When
I
it
know,
mattered, they
like,
beat you.
and it's hilarious to me when they say that too, because they're like, they were just the third place team that got hot, and I'm like, well, I mean, that kind of happens sometimes. I mean, so I always point this out. The 2006 Cardinals, they won the World Series that year. They went 83 and 79. They just happened to be the best team in the Bad Central. So they got hot when they needed to, and they won the World Series. It happens.
Well, with that, why don't you plug your YouTube channel?
Oh man, I haven't done anything for that for a while, but I do have a singing channel. I'm called the Bearded Bald Baritone. Maybe I'll have Jason include a link down below or something like that to it, so that you guys can check me out. Check me out singing. I like to sing. I like to do whatever I can especially while I'm holed up here down in Waynesboro. But again, yeah, the Bearded Bald Baritone.
All right, check Tory out on YouTube. He has a fantastic singing voice.
Thank you.
I've watched plenty of his videos. My wife can attest to that. You can find me every other week on the None Other Sports podcast with my best friend David. It's sports talk for the average Joe. We kind of talk about fun topics in sports, some serious. Our most recent episode, we talked about baseball starting off, and we talked about our favorite 8-bit baseball games.
Ooh.
And
Wait,
you
I have
can
to know
find that.
what was yours? Real quick, I have to know what yours was.
Well, it wasn't so much we didn't really have a list. We talked about the ones that stood out to us growing up. So,
Okay.
we did Bases Loaded, we did RBI Baseball, Baseball Stars, Baseball War, or Base Wars.
Baseball Stars was good.
And I talked about my personal favorite, which was Bo Jackson Baseball, which had cutscenes in it. So when there was a close play at the plate, you had a cutscene with the manager and the umpire arguing, and then you also had a cutscene if you struck out as Bo Jackson, where he would break the bat over his knee. I'm a big fan of that game. Plus, there were wacky. So the names were like slightly off. Like if I wanted to play as the Phils and I wanted to be John Kruk, it would be John Crunk. Yeah, so it was classic Nintendo. But you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and we're also on YouTube as well. Maybe producer Brad can throw the links in for both of those in the description. With that, we will talk to you in May, and this episode is out of here.
Out of here.